Hi, from Fry's Electronics and Fry's.com, I'm Joe Crick. With me is JJ from ASUS, and we are here to talk about the 750 Ti GeForce GTX card. JJ, welcome to the show. Let's just kick it off. What makes the 750 Ti better than, say, a 550 or a 650?
Well, the biggest thing is that it's an entirely brand new GPU architecture. So this doesn't always happen when we have a brand new microarchitecture. And what this is really giving us this generation is efficiency. NVIDIA is coming out and really committing to the fact that it's the most efficient GPU design that they've ever made. When we talk about efficiency, what does that really translate into a real world kind of user benefit? It comes in a couple of things. One, power consumption. It's going to be significantly lower compared to like a 550 part. It's half the actual power consumption, which is pretty impressive. And then you also tie in power efficiency to things like temperature performance, which also means that if the card's running cooler, it's also running quieter, right? So you tag that in there with the overall improvements to the microarchitecture, also keeping GPU performance very strong as well. So you've got a very fast part that's cool, that's quiet, that also consumes a little bit amount of power. So it's a pretty interesting part.
All right, awesome. ASUS is not the only GTX 750 Ti manufacturer out there. There's a lot of other options out there for video cards. What separates ASUS from the pack? What makes them really stand out?
Well, for one, the length of time that we've been producing GPUs. We're pretty much one of the oldest GPU manufacturers out there, so since day one. That's going to be a big part of that. That's allowed us to actually leverage a huge amount of our design history and experience when we go about designing the cards. Now, normally when NVIDIA develops the GPU, they create a reference guideline or a reference design that they'll send out to partners, and they'll say, hey, this is how you should design a 750 Ti. And it's a good design, and it's practical, but also doesn't necessarily push the envelope and maybe give better performance.
Kind of like a basic blueprint.
Yeah, basic blueprint of the card. And so for us, we say, hey, we don't generally go with using the reference-based card design. We generally target non-reference-based card designs. So what does non-reference mean? It's going to mean pretty much everything from top to bottom. Even some companies that quote-unquote make a non-reference design, it might just be a non-reference cooler. But for us, when we mean non-reference, we mean everything from this section of the card, so the PCB, to where if we go ahead and maybe just take off two of these screws here, and we talk about the inside of the actual card, so those onboard components, those are also fully non-reference. So it's going to be multiple points. So this inside part of the card, this entire area has been custom designed by us as well.
All right.
And so what we might do here is improve the components. So an example of that is going to be our capacitors. These are 5K rated capacitors versus what you're going to see on reference cards, which are 2K rated capacitors.
So much stronger capacitors.
Correct, and they offer just overall a longer lifespan, twice the lifespan of a normal capacitor. Another area is going to be here. This power section is very critical. It's called the MOSFETs. And these MOSFETs are actually the hottest part of the card outside of the GPU.
Okay.
And we're using advanced MOSFETs that run much, much lower in terms of their temperature. So you get overall better temperature performance. And there's also going to be other subtle touches, such as the shielding of all our actual display outputs. Some of the reference card designs or some of the competitors' card solutions will cost down, and essentially they won't shield these. It's not going to be an absolute deal breaker, but sometimes what it can translate into is things like flicker or sometimes like a stuttering of your image on your display. So overall, we're trying to take a look at the card from top to bottom and give you something that is higher quality and offering better performance. Now, this also will help to translate into also giving you better performance from an overclocking standpoint. This is definitely a performance-oriented card. Right. So people generally want to maybe push the performance envelope, right? Mm-hmm. So in that respect, we have a higher phase count here, gives us better power output capabilities. And when you tie that in then with our dual fan design that we have here, whereas the reference card only has a single fan, we're going to give you lower temperatures, whether you're running at stock or whether you're overclocked. And it's also going to be very quiet in operation. And most situations for most gamers, they're going to experience an inaudible card. They won't hear this when it's installed in their system, whether it's surfing the internet or whether it's playing a game. They're not going to hear anything.
So the only thing they're going to hear is what they want to hear.
Exactly.
And not some fans buzzing.
Exactly.
All right, so we kind of touched on gamers and what they want. What is really going to sell the gamers on this? What does the 750 Ti from ASUS really deliver for those gamers?
I think it's going to be multiple points. One, you're going to get a great card that's very power efficient. It's cool, it's quiet, it's got great performance. When we talk about performance, what does that translate into from a gaming perspective? That means current games that you're looking at that you want to play, like Battlefield, Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell, Tomb Raider, League of Legends. All of those you're talking about generally high image quality settings, 1080 resolutions. If you use stuff like the GeForce Experience software, our GPU tweak to maybe overclock the card, you can even scale up higher. You could be looking at WQHD resolution gaming, which from this budget standpoint in terms of the card, that's pretty impressive that you can have that level of gaming. So whether you're looking for small form factor builds, mini ITX, micro ITX, or even ATX builds, it fits really well across all those segments.
Awesome. Well, JJ, thank you very much. If you have any questions about the GeForce GTX 750 Ti from ASUS or any of ASUS's other great products, then stop on over to any of our 34 stores nationwide or click